how a very clever Olivia Newton John felt uncomfortable with the title of her biggest hit, so she decided to look around and see what was happening at the times. Was there any way else she could spin this song, which was destined to be a number one song? And she zeroed in on one big trend from the 80s. The kids were going back to school in September of 1981. And Olivia Newton John had this song, Steve Kipner co-wrote it, called Physical. She felt uncomfortable about the content a little bit. But remember, 81, the 80s in general, exercise crazes, pastel-colored exercise equipment. So it wouldn't be about that subject, which was something taboo to Olivia Newton John. It would be about exercise. We talked to Diane Kruger, who wrote the quintessential book on Australian singer-songwriters. It's called Songwriters Speak. We talk about Steve Kipner, who co-wrote the song, and Olivia Newton John on Rock History Music.
I like Steve Kipner saying he was co-writing Physical, but they didn't want to write a love song that day, so that came out. A song that was banned in like 2 states in the US. What the hell?
Well, 6 months, just going back to Tim Finn briefly, 6 months in a Leaky Boat, the Split Enz song was banned in the UK because it was released during the Falklands War. So, I guess the Thatcher government or whoever her reps were in the BBC thought, oh no, that might make people think that the Navy boats are all going to sink. So ludicrous. Let's Get Physical was, originally thought of for Rod Stewart.
And yeah. I could see that.
But how clever was Olivia? Because she was very, very uncomfortable about it. She recorded it and she gave an incredible performance of it on the record. But then she was like, oh my God, I can't do this. So let's make this about aerobics. When Jane Fonda's got aerobic videos coming out, when everyone's signing up for gyms. How brilliant, Olivia was very clever. A lot of these personalities overlapping and interweaving in each other's stories. So, for example, someone like John Farrar. That was very much up there in one of my favorite interviews that I did. He's not as forthcoming as, say, a Nick Cave or a Tim Finn or a Don Walker from Cold Chisel, because John has always found it difficult to talk about himself and his work process. But as I said to him, you wrote You're the One That I Want, period. Is it the most highly complex, deep song of all time? Hell no. Is there anyone in the world that hates it? I hope not, because why would you? It's pop perfection, and it evokes a time. It evokes images, of course, from the movie Grease. It evokes beautiful Olivia and John Travolta, and just so much joy and so much of what came before it. John's trajectory in his career and all the other songs that get mentioned in my book that he played guitar on, or that he was involved in producing, or it's I love that the book has a song index, so you can really see where a particular song has traveled and who has traveled through it. But John, I've interviewed him twice, because I also did interviews for some years for the Australian National Film and Sound Archive, their oral history program. And both times, John is shy in talking about himself. I know he had to get used to it a bit more, because in the last years of Olivia's life, there was more and more attention paid to her legacy and who was behind it. And so John would get honours and people would want to talk to him, but I think he still kept that to a minimum. But I think he's an Australian national treasure, but he's lived here in the LA area for so many years that when he is back in Australia, it's very under the radar and people don't know he's there.
I guess they didn't. He and Olivia, he had said to you that they didn't really click right away, but it didn't really take that long as far as like just the groove of them working together.
Yeah, well, she had that voice, and it was one of those big world, small world things. He fell in love with Olivia's singing partner, Pat Carroll, and they got married, and that's one of the longest music marriages ever. And it was a nice small circle of influence and love that they were all in. I think probably the big breakthrough was when he produced I Honestly Love You in this little studio in London. And it became such a worldwide hit and won a Grammy or two. And then they moved to America, and just she became the icon she became. I use that word too much, but
Nope.
But John's work cannot be, the importance of John Farrar's work cannot be understated. Like Olivia, I just don't know that she would have had the incredible career and length of career had it not been for John Farrar.
Genie in a bottle. I mean, Christina Aguilera, it was Britney Spears at the Grammys. Christina Aguilera, who wins for Best New Artist? It was the girl who sang Genie in the Bottle. I'll never forget that. And I was happy about that. And he co-wrote that.
Yeah, Steve's a very clever guy, whip smart, and he had a really smart father. His father was very instrumental in the Bee Gees having a career in the early years. And it's interesting because Steve had written Let's Get Physical for Olivia. He'd written or co-written Hard Habit to Break for Chicago. And then he just figured out that the way to move forward, which John Farrar, I don't think, wanted to so much, was to identify emerging pop stars and be a part of their trajectory. And so that became Steve's mission, to work with rising stars and not just write their songs, but be very involved in all aspects of that song. So he would call himself a record writer rather than a songwriter.
Remember, there are links in the description where you can pick up the book right now. You'll find those links at the very top of the description. Also, if you want to make a donation to Rock History Book, there's a PayPal link right at the very top. You can join our Patreon and get early access to our videos. And we'd love for you to subscribe to our channel. There's a link to all our channels in the description. Share them on social media, comment, like them, just spread the word. We'd appreciate that. I'm John Bogan. This is Rock History Book. Take care.